Hey, Samey audience, how are you guys? How's everybody doing? Okay, it's not church. I'm going to tell us to you right away. It's not church. Lots of seats up front, and you can actually use the table to write on. So I'll give you a few minutes to do that if you want. I'm also going to point out we've got microphones left and right, and we're going to ask that you use those for questions. We're actually recording this, which is pretty cool, and actually you're going to get an email that's going to show you how to actually access that. So if you miss something during the course of the presentation, you'll get access to the video or the audio that's going to allow you to hear the questions and the answers. So please get to the microphones when you have a question. Everybody know what session we're in? Let me read it, just make sure I'm in the right place. I think I am because General Owen's right here, so I think we're pretty close. So vertical construction business opportunity session. The Corps is going to present information on military construction projects currently planned or programmed for present mission requirements to include medical and other weapon system beds downs. Anybody in the wrong place? Need to leave now? We're good? Okay. Hey, just some admin stuff. You guys all came in the only two doors we have access to, and if you head out, there's a couple things of interest. The restrooms are out there. There's also a way to get down and out of the building just in case bad things happen, but that won't happen. How many folks have a cell phone? Okay. I know you're going to be tempted when there's slides up here to take pictures of the opportunities. You don't have to. There's going to be access to the slides, but while you have your phone out, please make sure it's on silent so we don't interrupt the speakers. I'd like to thank the sponsors. I'm not sure who sponsored us, but as you all know, these events don't happen without a lot of sponsorship and a lot of help. So thanks to those companies that did step up and do that for us. The badges were scanned. They're going to do a little bit of intel on who attended which sessions. Again, making sure we get the right briefings, right presentations as part of these SAME events. So if you're wondering why it did that, and it also helps you with CEUs if you are registered and want to maintain your registration. We talked about being available. We talked about using the microphone. I think at that point, let me introduce our speakers. To my right, you all can't see him, but you'll see him when he stands up. We have General Owen. He's waving. General Owen is the commander of USACE Southwestern Division, and he's going to get up and explain some opportunities. 1990, West Point grad. I understand, ma'am, you two are both 90 graduates. Awesome. Our second speaker, Tab, is not the general who's sitting down in front, but she's going to make sure he gets it right. And I heard her say she's going to help him with any questions. Is that true? Oh, okay. That works out. And I wanted to point out, in case you all didn't notice, in the handout, in the big glossy book that we got for the conference, there's pictures of the entire staff. Many of the staff members for each of the districts and divisions are here with us. Our booth actually is across from, sir, your team. So they are here. If you don't get a chance while you're in here this afternoon, please make sure you stop by while they're here. They are here to make sure you understand opportunities and we can partner well on taking care of some of these important military construction requirements. So with that, sir, I'm not going to spend any more time reading your resume. I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And glad to be here today. I would like to just take a little bit of time. I see we have some of our Southwestern Division partners here. And, I know this is generally about vertical construction, but just the fact that I'm up here, I just want to introduce my team real quick. So I got from Little Rock, Colonel Bob Dixon, and DPM is Craig Pierce. I think I got Colonel Ken Reed from Fort Worth, then Eric Verworst. Didn't call you Kevin, called you Eric. That's good. I don't see Tulsa out there. I think they're back home because one of our senior leaders for about 42 years of service, Earl Groves, is retiring. Some of you may know him. But so they're not here today. And then Galveston District, Lars Zetterstrom, Colonel Zetterstrom, is he here? So those are people, those are our four commands in Southwestern Division. Just want to take a minute to introduce them. So this is, I think the way we really plan on doing this is I'm going to talk for about 20 minutes about vertical construction opportunities in the military construction program. And then Mr. Brown's going to talk about vertical construction opportunities in our international and interagency support program. So 20 minutes for me, 20 minutes for Tab, and then maybe 20 minutes for question. That's our base plan going in, and so we'll see. Hopefully, you have some questions we can answer at the end. It's always good to just get a feel for the audience. I see a lot of familiar faces out there, but I think thing I'd like to understand is how many small business owners we have out there. Okay, good. And hopefully, I'm not sure how many of you have done work with USACE in the past. Raise your hand again. So how familiar you are with this system? We can be as basic or as complicated as you'd like us to be, but I think it's probably pretty basic, and hopefully we'll have some time for some questions at the end. So, okay, so let's see. I'll go to the next slide. And, vertical construction is really, in my opinion, vertical construction is the sweet spot for small business. Vertical construction less than $50 million is where we, I think, look to small business to execute that program for us. So we have lots of opportunities out there for you, and I think it's an exciting time for us to be able to pursue this with our vertical construction opportunities for less than $50 million. So let me talk a little bit about MILCON. So the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, also known as USACE, is the construction agent for the Army, the Air Force, and other Department of Defense agencies and military construction projects. The USACE military construction mission, which is the largest since World War II, ranges from an annual program of about $5 billion to $10 billion to meet the demands of the Department of Defense mission worldwide. A total of 8 major subordinate commands, what we call MSCs, and then 20 districts share the execution of the workload worldwide. So there's, in USACE, there's about 43 districts, but only about 20 of them do military construction. So you'll be looking for those specific ones. Our MILCON mission that ultimately supports our military men and women and their family members includes the construction of a wide variety of projects. We support DoD agencies with the design and construction of training facilities, hospitals, dormitories, laboratories, headquarters buildings, and community buildings, and there's many other facilities along with that. We also follow a strict and regimented set of guidelines to ensure we achieve high quality, cost-effective construction for our DoD partners. We employ various methods of construction to ensure we provide opportunities for small business participation. And we have different project delivery methods. We got listed down there: design, bid, build, and site adapt. So if you're familiar with those, that's great. If not, we can talk about it a little bit more, but we tend to employ them in different ways. I think design, bid, build, we often use for our small business projects. So, and of course, there's A&E opportunities with design, bid, build, and there's construction opportunities associated with that, as with design, build, too. Okay, some examples. Of what we do. I mean, these are the different agencies we work for, so we got a lot of acronyms in here, so if you're new to this business, you probably may not understand them all, so we could play acronym trivia here and I could ask anybody if they know what DASA I&E stands for, but I'll just say it. So it's the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army for Installation and Environment, so we do work for them. For the Assistant Chief of Staff for Installation Management that oversees the execution or the mission for all our bases. And then we have the Installation Management Command, which is based out of San Antonio, Texas, that works with the garrison commanders and things like that. So we also do a lot of work for the Air Force in the Civil Engineering Command, the Defense Health Agency, Defense Logistics Agency, the Navy, and the Reserves. Believe it or not, our largest portion of our MILCON portfolio is for the Air Force. The Army is actually number 3. But we certainly work for the Navy and the Army and the Air Force Reserves and Defense Logistics Agency, Defense Health Agency, among many other projects and programs. So we do have a strong commitment with our small business community, and we have a long and storied history of successful partnerships and endeavors. These successes were really realized by utilizing qualified small business firms as prime contractors or by awarding various small business set-aside projects on our programs for major projects too. So just a couple of pictures up there. Some of them are large projects, and we'll talk about a little before, but Fort Hood Hospital was a really large project, and we need small businesses not only to contribute as prime contractors for some of the small business set-asides, but as opportunities for subcontracting for the very large projects. So there's a very competitive environment out there, especially as where I come from in Central Texas, and small business construction firms and A&E firms play a really critical role for us in our ability to deliver these programs and these projects for service members. So, okay, go to the next slide. And, you know, I did show some large-scale projects on there, and there's just some issues that we thought we'd share with you on some of the things we have with large-scale projects. And, you know, working with the installation public works officer, the director of public works, or the base civil engineer, and some of the things that are listed under there. Everything from dealing with how your construction equipment gets on and off the base, to how it gets to the project, how to keep it from interfering with the training and the other activities that are going on in the base, all are important considerations. That I'd highlight that one underneath the first bullet, that construction traffic flow is something that can cause some problems. You know, in working with the Corps of Engineers, we have some new cybersecurity specifications that are coming online, and it's still, in my opinion, an emerging kind of challenge for us as we try to deal with those threats as they are changing every day. So managing those cybersecurity requirements is something that we try to deal with very, very closely. Change management, you know, something that always causes delays in the project, and something that we want to try to avoid at all costs, but we know it's going to happen. But so managing those changes and keeping things from being affecting the cost and the time. We're often on a very tight timeline to deliver the project in a way that's not going to impact both the readiness of the soldiers or their ability to have something like a dining facility that's going to be ready for them when they get back from a deployment. So those are all challenges, and quality is an essential part of that, and everybody knows the triad of time, cost, and quality. We always want to ensure we give quality projects, but we strive to make sure that we're on time, within budget, and high quality. From a contractor perspective, sometimes it's difficult finding sufficient skilled contractors. So if you're bidding on a project in an area, it's important for you to understand the market that's there and what's available for subcontracting opportunities and specific skill sets, and very, very marketable, are very, you know, some of those skills that are in high demand in the region. So long lead times for critical equipment always becomes something that we work with. Again, you know, I'll use the example of dining facilities again, where sometimes you have specialty equipment associated with dining facilities that need to be ordered well in advance, and just some basic project management about making sure that you're following the lead times and the things that you need to have the right equipment on time at the right place for projects is something that can jump up and bite you every once in a while. So just some of my experience doing that, and I thought I'd share a little bit with that. But it sounds like and looks like we have a lot of experienced contractors in the room, and that have had many successful projects that you can certainly tell me more about that than I can tell you. So, okay, so I did want to show a couple pictures of some bigger projects that we had that just kind of exemplify some of the work if you're really new to this particular venue. So these are large MILCOM projects. One is something we have going on at Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma. So the Air Force is replacing their KC-10 fuelers with the KC-46 Alpha fueler. So whenever there's a new airframe being fielded by the Air Force, you got to build new hangars, you got to build new maintenance facilities, you got to build new taxiways, and there's a lot of construction that goes along with that. So this is a program that's been going on at Tinker for a couple years, and there's still some opportunities for that. But hangars and taxiways and things like that are some big projects we do for the Air Force. I'll highlight one more. I think I got one more slide here, Tab, and then I'll turn it over to you. But we have, this is in San Antonio. If any Air Force veterans out there? We got one. Any enlisted Air Force veterans out there? Maybe not, but if you were enlisted soldier in the Air Force, you went to basic training through Lackland Air Force Base. Their facilities are being replaced and rebuilt in lots of different phases. So these are barracks and training facilities, and there's a big, I would say this is particular to Lackland Air Force Base, but we are doing lots of barracks renovation projects all over the country, including in Southwestern Division. And if you're interested in barracks renovation type projects, there's the Army is spending a lot of time and effort on that. There are the last thing I'll say before I turn it over to Tab is we have a MILCOM program and we have a SRM programs, Sustainment, Restoration, and Modernization program. And we have good predictability on our MILCOM program. We don't have as much predictability on our SRM program. So the SRM programs are really driven by the base engineers or the director of Public Works on each one of the bases. And as those projects emerge and they get money, they ask us to help out. So, MILCON, you probably have a little more predictability on. If you put yourself in a position where you can compete for and award for SRM projects, which typically we get more visibility on as later on in the fiscal year, maybe in third and fourth quarter, then those are always times where we're looking for quick responses and competitive bidders to help us get the most out of our procurement dollars that we have in a fiscal year. So look for both MILCOM projects and SRM projects in FedBizOps. Okay, so I think that's it for military construction. I'll turn it over to IAS to Tab.
Okay. Thank you, General Owen. Well, first, I guess I appreciate the opportunity to be here. The division, I represent the South Atlantic Division, so our division commander, Diane M. Holland, Brigadier General, is right in front, so I appreciate it. She's monitoring me. So I've got Tor Brunso, LaShawn Goodman Cooper is here. She's driving. I'm gonna ask her to do some things at the very end. See Heaven Ford back there. He walked in the back. We've got two of our DPMs that I can see. So we've got Pete and Christine, so Mobile District in Wilmington. I'm not sure, is there anybody else from SAD in the house? Ah, okay. Hey, Ronell. Contracting chief in Jacksonville. They're going to be busy. So I just want to talk a little bit about international and interagency support, our IAS program. But before I go there, I do want to make one other comment, just kind of add on to what General Owen was talking about. So sometimes we see, whether it's in the MILCON program or whether it's in IAS that I'll go through, sometimes the skill sets, and particularly in this economy, aren't always available. And so as you kind of go through and look at it, so not only the subcontractors as you're kind of working through, but actually the skill, the skilled labor that's out there. There's a lot of demand for that, and we've been seeing some challenges with that. So this is one thing I'd ask you to think about as you kind of work your way through and put in proposals. That's been a challenge that we see emerging here probably in the last year or so. So with IIS, really everything that we do for the military program, we also do for other non-DOD agencies, as well as states, local governments, tribal nations, some U.S. firms internationally, international organizations, and foreign governments. And so you see the laws that are up there. I won't go through that. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, so I won't go through all the laws. But basically, it's really reimbursable support. And so it's 100% reimbursable support that we get. So that's the funding mechanism. So they pay us to execute the mission. And we have the same commitment with small business as we do for MILCON with our IAS. We do a variety of projects, and I'll get into that in just a couple of slides. We want to try to achieve high quality, cost effective construction for our partners. We do that through various legislation. We have over 70 domestic partners and stakeholders. In addition, USACE also provides engineering, environmental restoration, and management services, research and development, assistance, management of water and land-related natural resources, relief and recovery work, and management of other technical resources. What we've been seeing is our most challenging interagency missions has been for DHS and the VA in the hospital construction and SRM that General Owen talked about. That's almost $6 billion worth of work in the next 5 years. Next slide. So here's kind of a list of some of our Uh-oh, can we go back one? Yeah, okay, thanks. So here's kind of the, some of our stakeholders that we get: Homeland Security, Department of State, Veteran Affairs, the Environmental Protection Agency, DOE, Interior. We've done work for NASA over the years, and you see the rest of them there. So just a few examples of the pictures, and I'll talk about a couple of other ones. And so there's a TSA canine facility, about a $7.2 million project, 3 new facilities, 2 50-run dog kennels, a feeding facility, and infrastructure for a 4th facility. We have the long-term care facility for the VA. It's about a $24 million project, about 82,000 square feet. It's a 80-bed, 2-story community living center for long-term VA patients at the Temple Medical Center. And the last one is the border infrastructure, gates and roads, walls and levee and other walls that we're constructing. A couple other ones within SAD, you know, that are big. We're doing a bed tower down in Tampa for the VA's first design build for the program we're running. We've got several projects with through Mobile District that we're doing downrange in South America, Central and South America, that we also construct as well. So lots of different things that we kind of work our way through. Next slide. So here's kind of some of the things that we really do. Printing facilities, you see medical facilities, labs, checkpoint and security facilities, horizontal construction along with our improvements, communication towers. General Owen already really talked to you about the kind of methods, the acquisition methods that we get after either design, bid, build, design, build, or kind of site adaptation. So those are techniques that we use as we move forward. So some of our federal partners that we've been working with is Customs, Border and Protection, Immigration, Customs and Enforcement, the TSA, the VHA, National Cemetery Administration, the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, Defense Logistics Agency, USACE Logistics Agency, and EPA, among others. And so we do lots of different things under this particular program. Next slide. So I'm going to kind of dwell on this slide, and what I want to do here, because I know you're looking and you're really interested in where we are, what type the programs are, and as Dave said, we're going to you're going to get a copy of the slides. It'll have a lot of the information. So like the next 20 slides, we'll kind of flip through those very quickly, but you'll get a impact, you'll get a view of it from each one. So we're going to go. I'm just going to go through this big picture, and then we'll kind of LaShawn will flip through the slides as I kind of talk about each one. So for the South Atlantic Division, you know, we've got projects that are upcoming in the VA. Go to the next one after that. We've got projects at Fort Gordon for the VA, Fort Jackson, Fort Bragg, Eglin Air Force Base, Puerto Rico. We've got dredging in Florida. I talked about Honduras and Peru down South America, Central and South America, those projects that are out there. So just kind of flip through some of those focus areas for this year and the booth number that we want to make sure you're on. So you kind of go over to Lakes and Rivers Division. Anybody from Lakes and Rivers Division in the room? All right. So we have Wright Pat Air Force Base, Fort Campbell, potential opportunities at Fort Knox, and for the Army Reserve, kind of they lead the Louisville District, and the commander just raised her hand. Why don't you stand up? Introduce yourself. Go ahead, come on, come on. All right. They are responsible for the Army Reserve program across the nation, and so they have projects in several places you'll see. As we move on to South Pacific Division, they've got a lot of projects for the Veterans Administration that are coming up. Anybody from SPD in the room? Yeah. Thanks, Colonel. So we also have, for DHA, Holman Air Force Base and Hill Air Force Base, and so those are some of the programs, potential opportunities in South Pacific Division. North Atlantic Division. Anybody from North Atlantic Division? Anybody? I can talk about them then, okay. I'm teasing. Fort Belvoir, the projects at Fort Belvoir and Fort Meade and Fort Hill, at West Point, and I have to say, go Army, even though my fraternity brother's son plays for Air Force, and they play this weekend, but go Army. I won't tell him that. Joint Base, McGuire-Dix, Joint Base at Langley, Eustis, and then you see Hanson Air Force Base is another one, and the Arsenal at Picatinny. So lots of different opportunities there. And if you go to Pacific Ocean Division, anybody from POD here in the room? I guess we could have skipped them on. I'm just kidding. Clear Air Force Base, Elmendorf Air Force Base are among some of the potential POD projects that are out there that they plan to put on the street this year. If we go to Northwestern Division, anyone from NWD? Okay. Northwestern Division, they've got the Joint Base at Lewis and McChord, Minot Air Force Base, F.E. Warren Air Force Base, Mainstrom Air Force Base, Peterson Air Force Base, the Air Force Academy, Fort McCoy, Fairchild. They have projects for the Veterans Administration as well as the National Cemetery Agency. And then last but not least, the Pace Setters, Southwestern Division. Certainly the opportunities at Lackland Air Force Base, Tinker Air Force Base, Shepherd Air Force Base, Camp Bullis, Altus Air Force Base, Kelly Airfield, Little Rock Air Force Base, Fort Hood, Fort Bliss, Fort Sill, Red River Army Depot, just to mention a few. So all those are up there. And so, LaShawn, can you go back to the last, or go back to that slide 12, if you don't mind? That's okay. So here's what I want to, here's kind of the parting shot in terms of the commercial. I know some of you all have already gone by booths and stuff, and so the reports I've got from the South Atlantic Division is there's been a lot of folks that have come by the booth, but come by booth 859. Southwestern Division is booth 762. Northwestern Division is booth 962. SPD is booth 1058. NAD is booth 542. LRD is booth 445. POD is 1145. And TAD is 1045. So please come by, visit us. There's a lot of folks have handouts. You'll get those opportunities. And again, all the presentation material will be available to you all. They'll get it uploaded, and you will be able to see this in a lot of detail. So I appreciate your time and attention. And so if you want to do questions now? Let's do it. Okay.
Okay, you guys ready for this? You got questions? Okay, I might have treats up here for the best question. Just telling you now. There we go. Okay, just to remind you guys how we're going to do this, I'm going to try and ask the first question the way I think they want us to ask the first question. So I'm Dave DiMartino from OTI, a tribally owned company out of the Green Bay. Anybody Green Bay fan in here? Come on. Come on, Dave McCormick. The tribe's out of the Green Bay area. They actually do the concessions at Lambeau Field. You've just learned something really important about Green Bay Packers. My first question, let me see which one I want to ask. Sir, let me ask this one to you. So I have a good friend who's just starting his own SDVO 8A company. And if he wants to come talk to one of the divisions to figure out how he starts doing work with that division or that district, which person, which office should he go visit first to start doing work with that core organization.
Okay, let me stand up. I know my small business director, Malaya, is staring me down right here. I know what she wants me to say. So the person you should really talk to is the small business deputy for each district. So each district has a small business deputy that really can do a great job of advising, especially someone that's new to the program, you know, how to make yourself competitive, what some of the risks are, where to look for opportunities and point you in the right direction. So that's my short answer. Super. And, you know, I did want to add something else. You know, I think I got handed a note about, you know, how we procure vertical construction. So we left out, and talk about IDIQ. So everybody knows what IDIQ is, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. So, you know, Malaya gave me these stats about, you know, how in FY18, for our new construction actions, 41% of the dollars we procured were by IDIQ. So 41% by IDIQ. And 66% of the actions were, of the actions. So 41% of the dollars, 66% of the actions by IDIQ. So if you know what that is, and you can put yourself in a position to take advantage of that, that's something you should think about. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Okay, who has question number 2? Yes, sir.
Well, you said Air Force is number 1, Milcon, Army is 3. Who's 2?
It is 2.
Who is number 2 for Milcon execution?
It is DHA. I think it's Defense Health Agency, sir.
Defense Health. Super. Who has question number 3? Come on, because I have a whole list of them. I'm going to keep asking. Okay. We're going to stay here till I get through my whole list. I just want you to know that. Let me just point something out. You saw up here Colonel DiMartino. That was the guy I used to know who was in the Air Force. I spent some time at AFCEC. Let me just tell you a little bit about how you can find out about that SRM list for the Air Force. The AFCEC team is here. They have a booth. You want to go see...
Wait a minute. We're going to do that at 3:30.
Okay.
Take my stuff.
I'm just going to introduce you. I'm just going to introduce you. Don't talk to that guy. Talk to the guy next to him. But go visit the AFCEC booth and ask about something called a CTO, Construction Task Order. It's a list of SRM requirements that they are working on for that given fiscal year. And they should have the next fiscal year after that as well. So it'll give you an idea of what's coming and what might be executed through that IDIQ contract through one of the core districts.
So
Okay, so is there another question over there from the distinguished gentleman on the left? No, sir.
Sir, do you have a question?
How about, we don't yet, but there's congressional supplemental for the bases that were destroyed by the hurricane. That's coming out of Milcon.
Did everybody hear that question?
So,
Okay, sir, go ahead.
I would defer to General Holland on that. I think you're talking primarily about Tyndall Air Force Base.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't know if there'll be a supplemental Milcon. It is possible, generally it is not done that way. There is a new authority that allows for the services to divert SRM funds, that's O&M, one-year operational funds, to the sum of, I think, $50 million a year to repair or damage. So I think the expectation from the the secretary is that the services will divert the money. We have 2 installations we're badly hit. One of them is Matsu, which is the Marine Ocean Terminal in North Carolina. We're working through that right now, but there will be some long-term efforts that they'll have to figure out. Of course, the bigger one is Tyndall. We are putting together the RFP, and then we'll do the assignment of the building assessments. Steve Nally, right here, he can give a quick update on that. But I am not expecting at this point a supplemental for that. I think the services are going to have to fund out of that themselves. However, there's a very expensive aircraft in Tyndall, and they may get some more. It's just a matter of laying out the whole plan, whether or not it has to go Milcon or it can be done through new authorization. Hold on. Steve, do you have any?
Tyndall is one of our installations that we initially supported. We had a resident office there, so pretty much immediately after the storm, Pretty much after the storm, our resident engineer, we sent some Mobile District engineering employees onto the base. They've done assessments about 800 of the buildings at Tyndall. About 20% of the buildings at Tyndall are probably a loss. 60% probably can be repaired, and 20% look like they're in pretty good shape. We pretty quickly did some task order contracts to put some temporary roofs on some critical facilities. That was done. We now are putting some, we issued yesterday some RFPs for some AEs to go to Tyndall to do some assessments, some design build scopes of work for those facilities that we think can be pretty quickly repaired. Once we get the magnitude of what those come back as, we'll go back to the Air Force and see if they want to fund that work. We also expect that Tyndall will ask us to probably bring in some modulars for some of the buildings that are really damaged, bring in modulars like for the BCE shop and a few other buildings short term. If they ask us to do that at locations that are pretty hard-stand facilities where infrastructure is readily available, water, power, et cetera, we might look at the GSA schedule for that. If it's kind of virgin ground, we might go with a SATOC contractor. We'll see how that works out. My understanding is that Air Force, well, I know Air Force stood up a task force Phoenix with a colonel, and he came in a couple days after the event. His focus is on the first 90 days to try and get Tyndall back up as operational as possible. And so they're really working on the debris removal and the assessments and the things I just described. AFCEC, my understanding, is bringing in a master planning cell this week, I believe, to start to do some of the longer term, okay, what do we want to do with Tyndall Air Force Base? And so we're waiting to see what comes out of that. AFCEC did very quickly after the incident, they brought KBR in. So KBR was doing a lot of the immediate support, debris removal. They set up a 1,000-person tent city, kind of the base camp thing that we're pretty familiar with. So they've been doing those kinds of things. KBR did do some other assessments as well. KBR is still there. I know they have a booth here, so a lot of folks may want to go visit them. So a lot of unknowns with Tyndall right now. It is a very important base, home to one of the 2 F-22 squadrons. Got the ranges on the Gulf. You've got Eglin Air Force Base next door. So, I think there'll be a lot of pressure to rebuild Tyndall, but it's a larger decision. Any questions on Tyndall that I know?
Super.
Good rundown.
Okay.
Great. Any follow-on questions related to that?
So I have,
One thing I will mention is kind of unique. I think at Matsu, we actually deployed some engineers out of Fort Bragg, the 27th, working with our Savannah district in kind of a new model, and we're doing the same thing at Tyndall. We actually have combat heavy engineers out of Fort Polk who deployed to Tyndall, working under, I guess, Task Force Phoenix's, or Hammer, Task Force Hammer, doing some of the immediate debris removal and things like that that the combat heavy guys can do pretty quickly for us. So kind of a different model where all the components, we've had Red Horse, the Seabees, and the Army soldiers in there doing some recovery. So kind of a neat thing that we've seen here on 2 episodes in the last couple months.
okay, so if, unless there's any other questions on that, I'd like to ask you some questions. So you heard General Semonite this morning talk about, if you were there, revolutionizing the Corps of Engineers, and we have a lot of experienced people out there, so I would ask anybody in the audience if they have any recommendations for us for how we can better engage with small business, or if you want to share any of your experiences about, how we can do better on this. So we got a few minutes left in this session, and that'd be a great learning experience for us. Anybody want to share or have any suggestions for how USACE engages or executes our small business program for anything? Or you can ask another question if you want to ask another question.
Someone back there.
Okay. Shiroy, thank you.
General, I had a general question. Given the quantity of work that's coming down the pike for the Army Corps in general, one of the suggestions was, I believe there's a $10 million cap for each district before they have to get approval from headquarters. If you were able to increase that cap to say 25 million or 40 million, you may be able to execute a lot more work quicker.
Okay.
I know there may be a FARS requirement there, but the caps were done quite a while ago. There may be a council that can request FARS to increase the cap.
Okay, and that's specifically for A&E services, right?
Correct, correct.
I don't know, David, do you guys are we going to increase the cap for?
Well, I can speak to that. I mean,
Todd does.
so last week we were in headquarters and we brought that up to a director of military programs, and so he made a commitment to kind of go back and work through the Pentagon for that piece. There's a basis for statutory requirement, as I understand it. That's something that he said he'd try to take on. Don't know where it's going to happen, but that's been something that we've raised as one of those things that we call above the line. So that's one of the above the line things we'd like to look at and review. So more to follow.
There has been a lot of effort to delegate authorities, especially in our civil works programs, down to the district level to make things much faster. So, but, okay. Malia?
Part of that presentation provides you a list of all the active IDIQ contracts in construction throughout the Corps. It would help for the primes so that you can better position yourself for those that are going to expire and check to see if they're going to be recompeted at that particular district. It's also there for small businesses who are not ready to prime but would rather be a sub to get their foot in the door with the Corps.
Okay. I guess, well, I don't feel like we need to keep people here unless you have more questions you want to share.
Sir, I had a couple
But
more, if I
we
can.
will definitely do that. Okay.
Well, great, generate one or two. I
Okay.
know Dave McCormick's going to ask one. See, I knew it. I could tell. I don't think so.
And my question is, thank you, like I need this. So my question is, there are some bed down activities that were going on at Tyndall before Hurricane Michael. You know, are there rebasing actions coming up, or is there other ways we should be looking toward those new basing actions, or what? What's going to happen there?
We had several different shred activities going on for some UA drone intercepts that are going to be positioned at Tyndall. I think if those efforts were fairly close, we're going to finish them up, but I think it'll probably be a pause on what happens with those until the Air Force makes a larger decision with what to do with the reconstruction at Tyndall.
Thank you, sir. Sir, just if I can, an observation since I've been out and with a small business, one of the things that I've seen great benefit in that the Corps has done well through this event, and also we've got a small business event in San Antonio, is that your small business reps attend. And I think just the opportunity to ask the questions and interact and start the relationships between the company and the government team, I found that to be invaluable. And again, I've been very involved in our small business event in San Antonio and see some of the same folks at these events. And to me, that's just helped understand the process and relationship. You know, and at the San Antonio event when I moderate, and then here I'll ask questions that, you know, I'm hoping are helping people that are just getting started, because they're the same questions I had or have.
Right.
So, you know, having the opportunity to ask the questions, I think helps figure out where is the front door. So having the team here is very helpful. So that's one thing I'd say, please keep doing.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
So based on that, so is there anybody in the audience that kind of an experienced veteran that maybe wants to share one or two kind of nuggets or lessons learned that they experienced kind of as they got started that they can share with folks that maybe are just trying to get in? Does anybody want to volunteer that, share, partner, trade secrets, not? Okay.
I think there's one more session before drinks, so I know it's not drinks keeping you guys from, isn't that right? Okay.
But, you know, so I think we haven't mentioned Fed Biz Ops yet. Right?
Yes, sir.
Everybody knows about Fed Biz Ops, and, you know, that's where all these things are listed, and really important for you to know that system. And, you know, I'm trying to remember the name of this movie, but there was a movie recently about these guys who, it's one I should not endorse because of some of the things they were doing in there. But I'm trying to remember the name. I'm not doing a good job of describing it, but they were basically buying ammunition for the War Dogs, called War Dogs. But when I watched that movie and I looked at how those guys new FedBiz Ops. They were basically using FedBiz Ops. They were fishing through that system, looking for opportunities, anything they could bid on. Maybe they weren't doing it in the most ethical way, so I wouldn't encourage that behavior, but I thought it was pretty interesting how they scrubbed that database to look for opportunities. They spent a lot of effort doing it, and, that's maybe one action to emulate too, is just getting to know FedBiz Ops and paying attention to what's coming in. It changes every day. It's very fluid, and there's lots of opportunities on there.
Related to that, if I see either in your slides or in FedBiz Ops an opportunity to do a $20 million Milcon project to support the KC-46 at Altus, how do I know if my company can actually compete for that work? I mean, do I go talk to the small business folks? Is there something in FedBiz Ops that's going to tell me yes you can or no you can't?
So I think in FedBiz Ops, it does say set aside. Does it say, and if it says specifically, you can look that up, that it's a small business set aside for whatever particular region within FedBiz Ops to do that, but you're not restricted from just bidding on those. You can certainly bid on anything, and you're always looking for the lowest bidder, so the more bidders we get, the more chances that's good for us in the government. But so yeah, so they're specifically laid out on that. And Tab, did you want to say anything? Do you know anything more about that?
No.
I'm kind of hogging the mic. I
No, go
apologize.
ahead, go ahead. No, you're fine.
Okay, all right. And
replied to our sources sought.
yeah.
So therefore, we went unrestricted.
Yeah. So, and I'll tell you, in San Antonio, I know we got the Fort Worth, but the San Antonio region, we may be full and open, but we tend to use small business set aside, I think, in the San Antonio region, but we can't get the really big companies to come bid on, projects less than $50 million in San Antonio, because it's extremely competitive environment and lots of stuff going on there. So there's definitely lots of opportunities, and certainly one that are set aside, and others that you could be very competitive in. So.
Yes, sir.
One thing I'd like to mention, it has to do with the set-asides that you were talking about a moment ago. My name's Quentin Ramey. I'm a small business architect, and we've been doing this for a lot of years, but I'm looking at this note that one of my guys sent me that said FY 2019 National Defense Authorization Act, known as the John S. McCain, blah, 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 says that the threshold increase now for the small business set-aside is gone from just under $400,000 to just under $1 million. I mentioned that this morning in the CPARS review, and three people up at the front, which one was head of Corps of Engineers, the other was AFCEC, and the other's NAVFAC, and they all agreed with it. Is this an official thing from the standpoint of the Corps of Engineers?
Do you want to answer that? Awesome.
Yeah, I don't know the answer.
Can we grab Mike? There you go.
If it is, it changes a lot of things, because right now, as a small business, when we're doing with under $400,000 restriction per task order, we can do a lot of RFPs, but we don't get any CPARS ratings for doing the architectural design on a project that's turned over to design-build contractor with its A&Es. This would increase the opportunity for architects and engineers in small business to do up to almost a $17 million construction contract.
I will say right now, it's my personal opinion, I do not care for that statute, and I want it to go away.
And why is that?
I want it to be where we can actually set aside more for small business than just $1 million.
Oh.
Because you can
I
do
like
more.
Yeah, I want to be in your club.
What it does apply to right now is military construction and family housing. It does not apply to the international interagency or any part of our civil works programs.
And right, and it also doesn't need to apply to SRM because there's no restriction on SRM work.
Right, it's just MilCon, minor MilCon, and O&M classified as MilCon. Okay, that's our interpretation from the Corps.
Well, I'm just appreciative that there's been this increase, according to the statute, to under $1 million, because it makes a lot of difference just with that.
Now, that has not been implemented, okay? Yes, it was in the NDAA 19, but from there, it's got to go through the whole cycle all the way down to us. So it's got to hit the DFARS, and that's where you'll see some issues there that we have issues with.
Oh.
And then it flows down.
Does that mean if you have issues, you'll try to get it for more?
No, what the DFARS, I believe the DFARS actually says that it applies not only to the task order, but the capacity as well.
Oh, and this says also the amendments made by this section shall apply with respect to the fiscal year 2019 and each succeeding fiscal year. But even though it's the National Defense Authorization Act, it hasn't been approved by certain agencies.
You have that process, that process of going over like to, was it OFP, and then it comes down, it goes to the FAR, probably this won't go to the FAR Council, it'll go straight to the DFAR, the DAR Council. The DAR Council will make their opinions and assessments and all that kind of stuff, and then it's going to float down, and then eventually it's going to be in the FAR.
Well,
or the
good. I'm going to
DFARS.
keep working with my friends like Dave McCormick, who are large business, so that I can make a fee on a full design. And it isn't the amount of fee, it's the fact that you get credit in CPARs on an evaluation because you've done full design.
Well, while we try to work it on our side, please go to your congressman.
Oh, well, he's in my office just before the last election, so I'll see what happens there.
And I would say be careful telling everybody in this room that you're friends with Dave McCormick. I'm just saying.
Yeah, one other thing that I wanted to share is
We only drink together.
is that you have a voice in that regulatory process. And so they'll pass a new law. Sometimes we'll be just as excited about it as you are, right? But we're prohibited from implementing it until either the FAR Council or the DAR Council actually passes down a rule change which allows us to implement it, right? Their public policy process is that they put that out for comment. And so as the DAR Council considers this change, they'll put it out for public comment, and they're required by law to answer every question and comment that you make. So if you've never gotten on there and used your voice to express your opinion and how it should be implemented, that's a great opportunity for everybody in this room. We do it on the government side, and you should as well.
Okay, that sounds great. And I'd like to conclude by just saying hello to Colonel Gann, who I met at the Louisville District last week, along with 50 other people.
Sir, I think there was another question up here. Did somebody have their hand up?
This is a real quick question. Along with VetBiz Ops and everything, the Corps used to put out once a year, right before the Meet the Chiefs briefs and everything, the full program, your anticipated release date, all that kind of stuff. And then it got really stale and nobody updated it. That thing was, I'm a former naval officer, so I'm not bragging on NAVFAC, but NAVFAC actually does update that and do it probably 4 or 5 times a year. And so the Corps was doing it and was updating it semi-annually, I think, but it was pretty valuable. It allowed you to actually sit down and do strategic planning and get a look ahead on where the Corps anticipated on releasing projects across all the different divisions and everything. And so, my whole thing was a lot of people are on your all side of the fence were worried that, well, what if that date's wrong? People are going to get mad at us. Man, I don't care. If you're giving me a data set that I can just use, and if it's right, great. And if it's not right, well, okay, yeah, things change. But it was helpful. And it allowed you to get 7 months of a jump on what came out on FedBiz Ops, and that's what it's all about. So that's it.
Okay, appreciate that suggestion. I'll ask our guys. My impression is we do that for MilCon.
Yes, sir.
And we have less visibility on the SRM program, and we don't necessarily do it for MilCon. And I don't know if anybody else wants to, or for SRM. What do you think? Do you guys have any opinion on that? Or did we used to do that and we don't do it anymore?
We did way back. We don't now. And to the general's point, as our portfolio has changed over time, we did a lot of MilCon, which was much easier to forecast. changes and we get to more of those small projects and you don't really know what's coming, right? It's kind of the known unknowns. It's very difficult to put that on a spreadsheet, post that on the website, keep it current. It's as much of a guessing game for us sometimes that it is for you, and it can be very frustrating, difficult to plan your business around it, I understand that, but it's much easier for us to do on the Milcon side.
You know, and I'd agree with you, David. We definitely, by the way, David Curry is our regional contracting chief in Southwestern Division, and Malaya Kraus is our small business director for Southwestern Division. So thanks for coming and helping us out. I don't know if you expected to have a speaking role, but you've been very helpful. So, but there has been a big transition from Milcon to SRM in the Army. I think the Army's spending a lot more money on SRM these days than they are on Milcon. And the SRM projects are getting much bigger than they used to be. I mean, there's some $70 million, $80 million barracks renovations that maybe once for Milcon that are now SRM, so, okay.
And I will also add that each district and center does maintain a forecast on their individual websites. Mr. Brown and I were talking about this just last night, and we would like to do something where we could consolidate it from either a division perspective or a USACE perspective. But unfortunately, each district has its own way of roping in all of their opportunities. So I guess we're going to have to get with contracting and the program side to see if we can do something that we can do the same way so that it can be a consolidated effort.
To your point, some are better than others. There are some districts out there that are very forward-leaning and they get out there and they update.
Yes.
But it is really helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll take it back to.
Good. I'd also, I know our districts do industry days too, where they, you know, I know that's kind of a local thing, and if you're in a local region and you want to compete in that, look for those industry days to participate in. So, thank you.
Any more? Yes, sir.
Follow up your original questions for some feedback. As an old Army Corps engineer officer, I wanted to say that as a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business, your presence this year has been the best that I have seen in my 8 years in this conference. The presence of all the people for the Corps that have come out here, keep it up. It really means a lot to all of us small business owners to actually talk to all these groups. So my hat's off to the effort of getting out here and meeting all of us. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for your service.
Well done. Okay, any other questions? Think we're good? All right, as noted before and as Tab pointed out and gave you some areas within the exhibit hall where to find the team, please take advantage of the opportunity while they're here. Sir, thank you so much for the time today.
Yes, sir, please. Thanks. I don't say it up front, but I just want to say thanks to you guys because you know, we can't deliver the program without you, and you're an essential part of it, and I just want to say thanks to what you do and committing your time and effort to help us do these kind of projects for our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Think so. That's all we got. Appreciate it. Have a good, safe day.